Okay.
I'll wait till it settles down a bit. Hello and welcome to my presentation. For the reasons I think, I'm going to start again because I paused that up immediately and I saw Jake walking through the door and I was like, you know what, it's going to distract me a bit, so... Okay. Hello, I'm Joe, and these are the reasons why I think you should endorse my radio drama. My radio drama is called No, it's not. It's called Fooled by a Rose. And there's a lot of meaning behind that. Fooled by a Rose is something beautiful, but also something painful at the same time. This is my main character, but we'll learn more about him later on. And these kind of give a bit of a theme to the story. So obviously there's a car crash. That's going to have something to do with the story. This guy, my main character, going to have something to do with the story. And guitars, or music in general, are going to have something to do with the story, as you can tell by the way I'm dressed. Okay, my main character, Max Herds. He took his dad's last name when his dad died of a heart attack a year before this story takes place. He's not unlike these lot, he's a bit of an outcast. He doesn't really have many friends. He lives in a small country town in Norfolk called Whiten. He isn't used to the city, he isn't used to loud noises or anything like that. He likes to keep it simple, he likes it quiet, but he did live in London for the most part of his life when he was a child. He's in a band called Fooled by a Rose, and they are on the verge of becoming famous. They'd really like to be famous, it's like the only thing he's good at. And he's terrible at everything else. He's been kicked out of school, he's been denied by clubs and things like that. He doesn't like traditional sport, so he doesn't have a lot of friends to do with that. He's a bit of a loner, to be honest. All he finds himself in is his music and his friends and his band. This is Samantha, our second main character, and the only other character in the story that you'll hear. She's Max's mother, and this is Samantha Samil. She was a concert hall photographer in London, which is why they lived in London. However, when her husband died, she moved up to Norfolk to live a simpler life, and she became the manager of the co-op. She drives a Citroen Saxo, and she looks like that. You can tell there's quite a lot of worry in her face. Ever since her husband died, she's been trying to ignore the rest of her life, she's trying to heal rather than trying to live. And Max can't really handle that anymore, hence he runs away and tries to, after he gets kicked out of school, he runs away and tries to move on with his life rather than his mum, who just sits at home and works co-op. The story. So as you can tell, like I've said, Max gets kicked out of school. He just is failing. He doesn't like start a fight or anything, he just is failing at school, he's really bad at it. He gets kicked out of school. His dad died a year ago, which really fuels his passion for music, because his dad was also a musician. He leaves home with his band. Now, when he leaves home with his band, he doesn't really tell his mum he's leaving, he just kind of walks away. And that's because he knows his mum can't really deal with any more heartache. She's already lost her love of her life, so he doesn't really feel he can be forward about this. He's in a van with his friends, they're having a laugh, it's all going well. He gets a phone call from his mum. This is when it all starts to go pear-shaped, because the whole thing is a conversation between him and his mum about how he's leaving and how he shouldn't do it and how all the reasons are bad, but he doesn't really care. He wants to keep going and following his dreams, and his mum keeps telling him not to, and she ends up getting quite stern with him. And then, unfortunately, she's killed in a car accident on the way home from co-op whilst he's talking to her. And the last thing he hears of his mum is her dying, which is pleasant. So yeah, then it fades out. And this will be a serial drama, so it will be over 3 weeks. It will be aired... Oh, I've got a slide for this actually. I've got a whole other slide coming out. Oh, let's do budget first. Budget works. It's on the slide anyway. So for the studio and for sound engineer it will be 180 quid. We'll only need the studio for 1 hour for a day, there's only 2 characters. The actors will cost £1,100 each per hour, which is £2,200 since I've got 2 actors. So the budget will in total come out to be £2,218. which is not a lot considering this is a really big opportunity for you guys, as it's a one-of-a-kind production. No one's done this before. It speaks to teenagers and to adults, in the sense that I'm sure there are hundreds of parents, millions of parents in the country, in the United Kingdom, that are used to having their 18-year-old child leave home and having to deal with that, and having to deal with that kind of loss. So a lot of mothers and fathers will be able to relate to this, as well as the teens that are going through that stage also of they want to leave home and they're transforming into the young adults they want to be and discovering themselves. So they'll also relate to Max's journey. Even if they're not musical, they'll still understand and have that relation with their relationship with their parents, how they kind of want to move on, but their parents don't really want them to. So like I said, it will reach a lot of audiences. Our target audience is between 13 to about 40, as that's kind of the age of teens wanting to make this decision and parents that are having to go through this decision. So yeah, it will be aired on BBC Radio Norfolk, as it's set in Norfolk, at 8 o'clock on Friday nights for 3 weeks running. And this is so, 8 o'clock is kind of you're not really going out and doing something on Friday night kind of time. You're probably on the way somewhere, probably in the car, or you're typically going to bed if you're like around, or you're just staying in if you're around 13, 14 years old. You're not really doing anything on Friday night. I can't imagine you going out. Why? You should invest in this production because there is truly nothing else like it airing right now in the world, like I said. Metal music is a dying art form, and those that cherish it will engage in anything to do with it. Trust me, I know what I'm talking about. Anything to do with metal, even if the word metal is involved in the sentence. If you're a metal fan, you care. Teens such as Max can relate to his journey, as well as his mothers relating to Samantha's journey. As it's a serial, more momentum and speed will be built up over the 3 weeks. If the audience is 100,000 the first night, it's likely to be more than 400,000 the final night, as more word of mouth. What am I looking for? More word of mouth popularity is the wrong word, but I'm going to go with popularity. More word of mouth popularity and excitement will have been built up over the 3 weeks. My actors, Jake Clark, I'll be using as Max Hertz, as he's a good personal friend of mine, and he is a teen, he likes metal music, he fits the character description quite well. Samantha Samir, I'll be using Alexandra Gilby because she's very good at acting and she is the kind of motherly figure that I would like to use. And I think that's it. That's my production. Thank you for listening, and I wish Joe, and I hope you do take seriously Fooled by a Rose.
Okay, Joe. How are you going to keep my attention in the first 30 seconds?
Sorry?
How are you going to keep my attention in the first 30 seconds?
Of the radio drama?
Yeah.
It'll be sound effects.
Like
So
what?
doors shutting, kids laughing, or teens laughing, getting into a van, and then engine turning on, and then driving and laughter and just jokes being made. So there'll be a lot of
your
noise
target
immediately.
audience is quite broad.
It is quite broad.
So how are you going to keep the 13-year-old boy's attention the same as you're going to keep the 40-year-old woman's attention?
Well, it is the whole thing is one conversation. It's a two-sided. So obviously it's two people. One of them is about 40, and one of them is 18. So it's the constantly. If you're not listening to one person, you listen to the other. It's like in most conversations, you tend to listen to one person more, and that's the person you're more familiar with.
Okay, so this conversation that's happening, how am I going to stay interested for like 5 minutes in a conversation between a mum and a son?
Because it differs from, it's not just a really boring, droll, one-sided conversation. It starts off calm, and she's just asking him to come home, and he keeps refusing. So it gets more heated, and it's like this slide, which I have somewhere. It starts with the initial why it's happening, so what's gone down, and then the rising action builds as it gets more and more heated, and she's getting more and more fed up with it. She wants him to come home, he's just not going to come home. And then climax, she totally gets hit by a car and dies. And then falling action is just the last couple seconds of abrupt deadline phone
Okay, how am I
emptiness.
going to know that she's driving a car? With regards to sound, how am I going to know she's driving a car?
Sound effects.
Yeah, like what? Because you haven't shown me any.
Yeah, that is true, because I didn't have any headphones. Just engine noises, occasional cars going past, and horns and sirens. It will be raining, so like sound of wet road, and just miscellaneous travel noise such as horns and cars going past.
Alright, cheers, Joe.
So